Hi everyone, welcome to Fostering Growth. My name is Laura and I'm here with my brother.
Hi everybody, my name is Alex.
And today we're here to talk about some memories and background stuff from our first foster care encounter. And really quick, just wanted to give a warning that this episode may contain some sensitive subjects for some people, and those who wish not to hear it should skip forward or stop listening. Some things, may have really bad impact on some people. This is just, some of the things that happen to us. We don't want to trigger anybody, so that's why we want to just give that little warning. But for the most part, we're just, trying to share with everyone our first, encounters and how we felt, and maybe because some people, just kind of take
a little light,
just don't really understand what some kids go through, especially at our age, because I was about 8 and Alex was about like 4 almost 5.
Just think of it as like a slice of life of our life.
Like you were almost 5 actually, because it was like middle year, and then I turned 8. It was a tough time for us, but yeah, I just wanted to start with Alex, and I feel that, Miguel was born into it, basically. He was... Don't you dare.
Well, you could say that Miguel was born into it.
He was like about a year old, or he was about to turn a year. He was a couple months.
It was like 8 or 9 months before the van came. As no, because that's how I remember it. Like, I just remember it, like, my first, what's the word? My first interaction with foster system, or with the foster agency ever, was basically the van. Like, that's kind of where, because it happened at night, so I think it was like September. I don't really know the year, but I know it was in September because...
Well, if it was in September, then you would have been already 5, because in August it's your birthday.
Shoot, yeah.
Exactly. So then you had just turned 5 maybe then.
Probably.
You and Miguel had just turned a year. I honestly don't remember the date.
All I remember, Grandma was having a couple like really hard days trying to take care of us after her incident with her knee, because me being the little daredevil that I was, I guess I always drove her to it.
She fell. She hurt her knee. She had to have some surgery, and then she couldn't really take care of us.
And I know it was like not super late at night, but it was pretty late. That there was a knock on the door. My grandmother. I don't know who. No, it wasn't my grandmother who answered. What's his name? I remember Papi Keys or whatever. Like I don't know if it was him who answered. Somebody answered the door, and there was a lady who was like, "Oh, is this the House of Guadalupe, so and so Arpayan?" And she was like, "Oh yeah." She called out from the room, and then they let him in, and then they talked for like 10 minutes, and then that's when they just started packing up our stuff. I remember they were grabbing Miguel's baby clothes, his pacifier, and they were putting it into like a duffel bag, and then they grabbed my clothes. I was watching it, but I wasn't really like focused on that. I was watching cartoons. I was not just watching Courage the Cowardly Dog, conveniently. And then the lady grabbed my hand. She's like, "Come on, we're gonna go for a little bit." And I was like, "What?" Like, at first I kind of fought, because I was like, "I don't know you." Like, my grandmother, I was always taught stranger danger. So I kind of fought my way there up until like she yanked my arm really hard, and then I got scared. And honestly, like at that point, I kind of just like let her pull me.
Kind of just
anywhere.
Go with the flow. You're like, okay.
I've never really had that. Like, that was my first like instinct of like being roughhoused by someone. But I do remember her like basically pulling me into the van with my little brother.
Yeah.
And then my grandmother was calling for our names and like trying to get out the house, and I didn't really even get to say goodbye either. They just took me and then just drove, and then we drove for like 30 minutes, and then they had me at like I want to say kind of like it was like a hospital like waiting area, sort of, kind of like, I don't know if what's it called, like the Ronald McDonald's off of Kearney Mesa, that place. That's where they had me, and there was like the Lion King. It was like Lion King 1 and 2. It was just repeating over and over for hours. And I know that it was repeating because like I distinctly remember, I know that whole movie. I know both the movies from beginning to end. I can tell you everything. Like, it is at that age. And then suddenly some lady came, different lady, She was like more like a American white skinned lady. She came over and she was like, "Oh hi, my name is Darla," or something like that. And she was like, "I'm just gonna take you to your new home." And I was just like, "What? My new home?" And I was just so confused. I kept asking them,
because
like,
you're so young. I mean, you're 5 basically.
I was
and-
like telling them, I was like, "Well, when can I go with my grandma?" I do remember saying like, "When can I go with my
Yeah.
grandma?" And they're like, "Oh, you can't go back." And I was like,
Mhm.
"What?" So, like, what? Without even
Yeah.
my consent? Like, and I was just like, "Well, I want to go back." Like,
Yeah,
you
I mean,
took me. I
at
didn't
that
wanna
point,
leave.
yeah, at that point, you're just like, I mean, as a little kid, you kind of have to follow that. But I know that you would have questioned because you were always, you and Miguel were always like, why kids? Like, but why?
but yeah, I was like, "But why?"
And I mean, I know that
The
kids
whole
at
ride
that
there,
point
and then when
are always like that.
I got to my first foster family. I'll call them like the Ramirez or something because I don't really remember their last name, but just for story.
Sorry, whoever's last name is
uncertainty.
Ramirez.
No
this
talk.
is just a fake.
Yeah. But I
not
met
a
with the
fake,
family and the lady was nice when I entered the door and my social worker dropped me off. It was like a 5-10 minute like conversation about what happened with me. I didn't really listen to because the lady told me, "Oh yeah, you can go to the living room and watch cartoons, and I have an older daughter, and then we're gonna have somebody else coming soon too." And so I was like, "Okay, whatever." So I'm watching cartoons, and as soon as the lady left, it kind of switched. The cartoons were cut off, and she was like, "Okay, well, in my house you do chores." And from like it was like from the moment my social worker left, I was just doing chores.
Oh, okay. So like her character switched. Like
Yeah.
she was on ice at first, and
Yeah,
then
she would like give me stuff, and like she still like every now and then I had to go through a certain amount of chores just to earn a couple things here and there, and like I always got the same basic meals. Like it didn't change. I never had like roast beef or anything. It was like it was no, like you know what I mean, like exquisite things. Like people
Yeah.
they had like dude, she would cook like menudo for them at fights, and I would still have like freaking 2 waffles, some sausage, and bacon. Like dude, that's breakfast items, and you're giving me, and people are eating dinner in my face. Whatever. I guess she fed me. That was her point of the deal. Now, everything was okay, I guess. I still kind of like cried myself to sleep. I still was just missing my family. I'm missing you guys, you and Miguel, just trying to figure out where the hell I was. And things only got darker from there, and that's all I'm going to really say because, like, you know, a month and a half into this established placement here, like I was molested, you know, by the older daughter, and it went on for some time, and I couldn't really find a way to pull myself out of it because even I was shocked. I didn't know what she was doing or why she was asking me to do the things that she did when she found out that like I caught her and I kind of told her like, "Oh, I know what you're doing to me isn't right," and then she kind of like would blackmail me into like, you know, well, they're never gonna believe you, they're never not. And yeah, the one time I did try to speak out towards her and like tell her mom, I remember the mom blatantly laughing in my face and like, "Oh, you guys make the tallest imaginations, you kids, blah blah blah." And I don't know, I just felt so dirty and ashamed the entire time because
yeah.
I felt like
At the same time,
I
like
didn't have
you,
power.
yeah, and like you really don't. I mean, as much as you say, like you knew that it was wrong, you didn't really know what was happening. Like you didn't know
Yeah.
what the experience was. It was just it happened, and you know they didn't believe you when you tried to speak about it, and then that's how they shame, you know.
Yeah, and like it went on for a couple of weeks, and the only reason I was able to finally break free is I had another younger foster brother. No, yeah, younger than me, couple more. Like he was like around the same age as me, if not a little, like maybe a year younger than me. Had to been. He was cool. We didn't really we really associated on the Legos parts because she was cool with him. She loved him. And so he got all the toys and he got what he wanted for the most part. And I was kind of the one who just sat there and was like, "Yeah, go mop the floor and then I'll get you a toy." And the toy was usually like from the Dollar Tree, like those plastic molded. I didn't care. So I got away with, you know, violence warning right here. I had to like poke him with a hot iron like really bad.
Yeah.
Like just so I can make the family believe that I was a danger so that I could leave because not even my social worker would listen to the fact that I was like, "Hey, the daughter's doing things with me and I don't feel okay with it because I don't know if I should be doing this."
Yeah.
And I would explain myself in detail and then they would dismiss it because they're like, "You're only 4 or 5, like you're probably saying tall tales," and apparently, like, I already had been known for running tall tales, which was like, at the time I didn't really lie that much. I only lied for like food and things, you know, but I guess they branded me that, so that was one of the reasons why they never believed me. But I guess, you know, fortune favors, you know, the patient or whatever, because a couple years later they actually caught her. Like, that's what I do know, that
Yeah.
there was an update where the family was kind of caught in this whole scandal, and they lost their license, and the daughter went to jail, and I think she
Wow.
was presumed a registered offender.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some people just don't stop, and even after you left, you know, maybe there could have been kids before you, or you know, there was definitely kids after you.
Yeah.
I mean, it just really sucks because we're not, you know, saying that all foster homes are like this, you know, but there's some that things happen, and sometimes, you know, the social workers do take the kids out of the situation and, you know, try to help, but sometimes the damage is done anyways. Like, there's no way to, you know, get back from that. And I mean, that's one of the things also why, you know, they sent us to therapy, you know, to just kind of deal with our emotions, deal with things that we had to experience. But I mean, in my case, like, therapy just kind of made it worse, and so I think
No,
that's
most
why.
definitely. I told them that it didn't really help me.
Yeah, like, I guess, like, when I was, you know, 8, like, I didn't really want to sit down and talk about my feelings over and over again with a therapist, or, you know, I know that we're trying to help, but at the same time, for me, it was like I just wanted to forget. Like, I just wanted to forget that, you know, things that happened, and just kind of go on, and not, like, you know, a lot of it I try to block, and it was just something that, for me, it was so much helpful to block it instead of going through it and processing it. And then once you grow up, like, it's also kind of, you know, it kind of sticks with you, and that's what, you know, I mean, I don't really talk much about it for the same reason of, like, I don't want to go back to that. I don't want to go back to the memories or the situation. Yeah, and but at the same time, like, speaking about it, you know, more people become aware that this happens to even when you see a person, because a lot of people see me and they're like, oh my god, she's so happy and bubbly and this and that, and other people that know me, they're like, she's a sad case. And you don't want to give people more of that information for them to look at you a certain way. But, you know, this podcast, I made it, you know, to have that awareness to people, and also, you know, sharing my experience and hoping that it could help, you know, other kids out there.
They can relate to it or something, and that way they,
you know,
they understand that they're not alone.
Yeah, they're not alone, and no matter what, no matter if, you know, the social worker does not, you know, believe you, like, you have to keep reaching out. Like, you have to be, you know, you have to make them listen. You have to make them somehow. I mean, I don't want to tell them that, like, what you did of, you know, acting out so you can get removed from the home. But, you know, to be honest, like, I was removed from my home too, but because I got, you know, slapped. And it was a whole different story that I'll point out right now. But, yeah, like, sometimes, you know, acting up really does help you get out of a home or a situation. And I don't want to, you know, imply that, but, you know, sometimes some kids, if they really need the help, like, I'll give more information about, you know, like, numbers to call at the end of the episode. But yeah, I really want kids to know that there has to be a safe place out there for them, and, you know, we'll keep sharing experiences
for their voices to be heard. Like,
yeah,
because
again, as kids,
not many get their voices heard, and it's a sad story to say that throughout my years in foster care and the amount of kids that I have known, I'm safe to say and sorry to say that not many of them got their voice heard, and for many of them it was too late.
Yeah, I know. And kind of say, like, my experience, I remember getting pulled out of school, and the first time that they came to school, they came to tell me that my grandma wasn't, you know, feeling well enough to take care of us. And I was confused. I mean, I knew that she had just had the surgery, that, you know, she had fallen and hurt herself, but I remember that they had offered help to help her, and to, like, send somebody to help her or something like that. And my grandma didn't want to do it, but then eventually she was like, okay, I'll need the help. And that's why, she called and told them that she needed help. Or, at this point, this is, kind of like what I was believed. My grandma told me, she's like, I asked for help and they came and took you guys. And basically, they picked me up from school. It was in a police car, and they told me, like, oh, you're not going to be living with your grandma anymore. And it was the same, like, with you. Like, what do you mean? And then another, first thing that came to my mind was, like, where are my brothers? Because, again, at such a young age, I had to start taking care of you guys and worrying about you guys. And that's why even now that we're all older, and, sometimes I do tell you guys, you have to make your own decisions, but you guys are still my kids, because since I was little, I had to take care of you guys. I had to look out for you guys. Like, it was always, placed on me because I was the older sibling, and I didn't mind. Like, there was a time that I did as a teenager, but at the same time, it was like, who else is going to do it if I don't do it, at that point.
Oh, yeah.
So they took me to what is the office, right here in National City. Basically, I don't remember exactly the time of day, but I know I was there all day, all evening, all the way into the night.
As
like
is their
it was
custom, apparently.
Yeah, like I was there all day, kind of waiting, because they were trying to find a family to like take me in, and the whole time I kept asking, like, where are you guys? Where are you guys? And they were like, oh, they're safe. They're in a safe place too, and they're going to be placed in a home too. And I'm like, are we going to be all placed together? And they said no. And that was honestly like one of the hardest things to hear, because I'm like, what do you mean we're not going to be placed in the same home? Like, where are my brothers going to go? Like, why are you separating us? And, it's really big in foster system that they're not going to place all the siblings together. There's no way that there's a home out there that's going to place all siblings together. And that's one of the biggest things that sucks, that every single time we're all separated.
Like, they'll take one kid, but they won't take their sibling. Like, and in my opinion, I understand when they can only take one kid or things like that, because I understand commodities and like and accommodations. But in my opinion, like, it's better if you at least have your sibling with you. Like, if you're paired in the foster system, pair them off, brother and sister, brother. Like,
I know with you guys, for a while, you guys were able to live together in one house.
Yeah.
Even though it was crazy.
No, it wasn't that. Well, all three of us?
No. You and me.
Oh, yeah. It wasn't that bad. Well, when there was only 3 instances in which him and I got to be together. And, those 3 instances were, they would have been, it would have been with Kaki. Was the first time that me and him were together.
Because, after they put you guys together.
No. Yeah. Well, I would also count it Polinsky, but Polinsky, he was not really with me. He was in a secondary opinion. Yeah. So I won't really count
I'm talking about when you guys were living together in the same house.
Okay, so yeah, that would be Kaki, and honestly, her name was like Rose, and then it would be Miss Olivia. Those are the only 3.
And then there was the occasion when you were with the sisters, right?
Yeah, but we didn't live together.
But you guys se juntaban.
Yeah, the Gomez's, as I'm gonna call them. Like, they not all the time actually, and this is the BS lie from them, and I respectfully respect them, but they always told the social workers that every week we would go meet, and we never met more than once a month.
Oh, okay.
Every week we would go to church, yes. But they never let me sit next to him. They never let me go talk to him after service or during, or in the middle of intermission. And when the times that we would go to Sunday school, they would only allow one of us to go, either me or him. They would never let us both go. Yeah. And I don't know why. Yeah. If they're trying to spread the word of God. So I felt like they were just trying to distance us as much as possible as brothers, to kind of, I think, put a wedge between us. And I know that started because at one point, me and him would clash heads at a very young age, and he was like around 4 at this time, and I was 8. But it made no sense. Like I would never clash with him, but it was that wedge. Yeah. So those are the 3.
Yeah. No. Again, from my experience that I was not placed with you guys. I was placed differently, and another big thing was because you guys are boys and I'm a girl. I was placed with a boy and a girl. The family they were nice, but after a while, things also changed, and I know that we'll call her Jane and John. I'm just gonna, Jane and John. And Jane was about 17, and she had been living for a couple of years already with the lady. I honestly remember it was a lady, her son, and then the foster girl, the foster boy, and then on occasion a little granddaughter that would come and visit. Sorry. So it was Jane and John. John was about 13 years old, and he had also been staying there for a while now. I know it was lesser time than Jane, but they had been there for years, so they knew each other, lived together, they were always, they got along. And I was, the new girl, so in the beginning it
Jenny
was...
on the block.
In the beginning it was, okay, like they welcomed me, and I bunked with Jane, and they also gave me a stereo where I would like to listen to music, because I remember that mom used to we'd be singing in the car, and it just was something that music was an escape. So I asked for a radio, and they gave me a stereo, that 3-piece stereo, very, very nice. And yeah, as I mentioned, a little tiny girl. I don't even remember her name, so I don't care what name I put on her. She was just evil. She was 6, and she was evil. And so John would tell her, like, oh, I'm going to hit myself, and you tell mom, because they called her mom, the foster mom, you tell mom that it was her. And he would point at me. And I was over here like, excuse me, like, I haven't even done anything to you. And he's just like, it's fun. And the little girl was like, okay. And I was like, what the heck? Like, at this point, who is going to believe me? They're going to believe their foster child that has been there for years, and the little girl that kids don't tell lies, in quotations. And yeah,
that
like, it was
the spawn of the devil.
Like, I mean, to me, like, that was like emotional abuse, because I would get in trouble for no reason, and the guy, the John was like, nobody likes you, nobody wants you here anyways, like, you're just like this and that. And I'm like, dude, you're a foster kid too, like, why are you shaming me? And you're in the same position. But he's like, no, because they want to adopt me, and they're never gonna adopt you, and nobody's ever gonna want you, and blah blah blah. And I'm just like, okay, dude.
There's a lot of Johns like that.
Yeah. And then the girl as well, like, Jane would kind of tell me sometimes, like, just say, oh, like, nobody likes you, and you're just here because, like, they felt bad, and they got the call, because remember I told you I was waiting, like, in the office for a while, just kind of waiting there. And she's like, they got the call, and they were like, they didn't really want another person in the house, but they took pity, and they were like, fine, we'll take her in, so, like, you're just a pity case. And I'm like, why would you say that? It was really, like, yeah, it started a lot of my problems, my psychological problems that I have now as an adult. Like, it was just like, you're unwanted.
Was a 17-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 6-year-old.
Bullying a little 8-year-old.
A 6-year-old. You hear that, 6-year-old? If you're old enough to understand who this young lady is on the podcast, like, you scarred her for life.
I'm sorry. No, seriously, like, it was just really bad. But I mean, that was just the kids, Like, again, the mom, the only thing the mom ever did to me was, that slap. But backstory on that slap was because I would write letters to my mom while she was on vacation. And on occasion, I would get letters back, but I would send I would write a letter every single day to my mom. Every single day. And then put it on the kitchen table. And, I mean, my foster mom would put a stamp on it, and send it out. But it was really weird, because after a while, like, I wasn't getting anything back. And it was either maybe she, didn't give me the letters, or she withheld them. But I did catch her one time that I put the letter on the table and I kind of, snuck behind my door because it was like the door was like right in front of the dining room, basically. And so I just kind of like left a little crack and I me hice bolita. And I was like spying. And I was like,
a little ball.
And I saw her grab the letter and throw it in the trash. And I was just like, what? Like, at this point, I was so pissed that I just burst out the door and I was like, I saw you do that. And like, she looked at me and she kind of looked like, but then she was like, so what? What are you going to do about it? And I'm just like, why would you not send the letters to my mom? And she's like, well, es que yo no tengo dinero para las estampas, like estampillas, whatever, the stamps on the letters. And I'm like, okay, like, why, instead of telling me, like, oh, I can't send your letter right now, like, why give it back to me and I'll save it? But she was throwing them in the trash, like, making me believe that she was sending them out. And I'm over here, like...
That's pretty damaging to a child.
Yeah, like, I'm over here, like, oh, my mom doesn't love me.
Yeah, that
doesn't send me letters.
That feeds into the whole trauma of, like, what? Like, do they not really care about me? Because... That's a thing, too. Like, most foster kids don't understand that. But, like, sometimes even the foster kids can be very poisonous. And, like, they can sit there and feed that whole psyche of, like, yeah, your parent doesn't want you. Like,
yeah, and then that's what sucks, too. Because it's like, yes, like, they might have felt safe there, you know. Again, they kept telling me, oh, we're going to get adopted by them. They've been here forever and they love us and blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, cool. cool story, bruh. But, you know, for me, it was like... And so, well... I saw her throw it in the trash and, you know, we got into, like, that argument. And I called her and she, like, slapped me. And I was kind of like, oh, my God.
She
like,
slapped me.
Yeah. Like, ya con eso me callé, no? And I stopped talking. I was like... And I went to my room and I cried. And the next day I went to school and I called my social worker from the office. And I told her, like, I don't want to be there anymore because she slapped me. And my social worker was also surprised, like, what? What do you mean? And I was like, yeah, she slapped me and I don't want to be there anymore. And I'm like, she's probably going to hit me again. And so they picked me up from school again, the police. So that was my second time. And they took me to the foster home and they were all surprised, like, what's going on? And then I was like, well, I told them that you slapped me. And, like, she was also kind of, like, like, shocked that I told them. Like, they didn't, I guess maybe she didn't think I was going to do it or I don't know. But, she was just like, well, did you tell him what you called me? And I was like, yeah, I told her what I called you and I told her what you did. I'm like, but you shouldn't have slapped me. And the foster mom was like, oh, well, I'll talk to your social worker about it. And I don't know what happened to her necessarily. Like, I honestly think that they did, like, maybe suspend her license because you're not supposed to hit a kid.
Yeah, I can tell you, like...
But honestly, like, I don't know if they removed the license or, like, if they removed the other kids. Yeah, like, I don't know what exactly they did, but I know that she did get in trouble.
Not to be a little negative, but imagine that whole thing. Now they're like, oh, well, now you can't adopt those kids, so you got to get rid of them. Like,
yeah, I don't know, you know, but I didn't want to stay there. I was just like,
I wouldn't have stayed there. Like, any person would put hands on me like that.
Yeah, they took me to another place for a while, but the next, you know, kind of thing that I remember was being with Gaki. Yeah. Like, and I remember I was around, what, like, I don't even know. I know that
you were like 10.
Yeah, because I know that
because I was 6 and Miguel was like 2. And I know that because he was just getting his teeth because... Remember the incident with the snail when he was going a little too fast and I kind of pushed him a little too fast.
I know they took his teeth out because they were all
rotten. And,
yeah. Ay.
Sorry, we're kind of blackmailing you. I love you.
I'm sorry, Miguel.
But just speaking facts.
No, but yeah, like, I remember Kaki's house. And,
that was my next destination. Like,
yeah.
And you can start that off. We'll let you start that off.
No, I mean, just being with Gaki, like, it was finally us being all together again. And we, you know, we had a good time there. We, you know, met our other cousins. And
we did.
Yeah, like, it was... You know, it was kind of up and down, but I think the best thing was just that we were all together, and, you know, we will always appreciate Gaki because she took us in even when she didn't have to, and, you know, it was even after all that happened, you know, with drama and things, and again, most of these things I've blocked because I remember even my grandma one time, like, went to Gaki's house and, like, started screaming at her because, like, she had us and she wanted to get us back, but, you know, it wasn't...
Oh, that's right, Grandma's the reason why we left Gaki's, wasn't it? Because
I know that there's...
Her not being the
honestly, I don't know. I don't know exactly what happened there.
I can actually
but I know that... But I know that after being with Gaki, I feel like they took us to another foster home because they didn't get to put us back with grandma.
No,
they took us to another foster home because I remember in that foster home, the next one, I was 11, 12. And again, I don't know much about what happened, but I just know that from Kaki's we went, it was only a couple of months at Kaki's. It wasn't even like a whole year. I think I remember that it was gonna be a year almost. And I remember that...
They separated us again, though, because they picked me and Miguel up in a car, the blue car. And I remember Kaki was waving, crying, and I was just like, what the hell? Like,
again.
What's going on, man?
Yeah. Like we were happy
so
there.
Happy there.
Yeah, we were so good there. I wake up and
I see you, Miguel,
and then again.
Everyone. And then all of a sudden, like I said, like I know just from like not too much legal concern to throw out our business out there, but I do know that one of the reasons why they took us away was because I guess they found out like that she wasn't of actual blood like related, because remember Samuel, who was supposed to be my dad, I guess the test came through and he ended up not being my father at all. So that's one of the reasons why they took us away, because they had no legal blood ties to us. So
I remember that as well too.
So in their head they're like, oh, we just gave you guys to complete strangers, but in reality those complete strangers had given us a better life.
We were fine there. It was better than being in a foster home because we were all together. Like that's what was the most important thing, was
we didn't really
we
have
were all
much,
together.
That didn't matter. I would wake up and
then they took us away, and then we're separated again.
And then that's when I got that's actually when I got 2 head injuries. My next foster home, I sustained 2 head injuries.
Damn, dude, this is a lot.
No, man, like it was 2 weeks afterwards. I'm gonna call, and this one also lost her license because the first time that I had an incident trauma to my head, she personally tried to fix it and made it worse. She like managed to fix it because I guess she had a nursing degree, and I had actually like cracked like the lower left sector of my back of my head.
Christ.
I was playing games with her older nephews and stuff, and they pushed me on one of those plastic play school wagons down a hill. Long story short, I was facing backwards instead of looking in front of me, and my head smacked into the back of a gate.
Jesus.
Very hard, like super hard. Like I felt the blood, everything warm. So she performed like her operation or whatever.
Her own little
seriously,
surgery.
and she like, I remember everything, all the pain, like the needle, everything. She did it all
Jesus.
herself.
Oh my God.
And I know I'm not trying to get too far in this. I'm trying to like keep it as PG-13 as possible.
I honestly did not know about this. I remember Miguel had a head injury, but that was when
because they didn't know.
But
with Miguel too. Miguel also sustained a head injury from that lady, but ours were never reported. That's the reason why she was in so much trouble. Because the second time it happened to me, I reported it. Me and her were having an altercation about who wet the bed, because my brother had shared the bed with some other kid. Now, my brother is very particular about wetting the bed. He doesn't like wetting the bed when he was young because he felt like it was like demasculating. He was a big boy, so he really hated it. I don't know what happened later on in the years. No shade. Just saying. Back then. So one day I woke up to him saying, "Hey, someone peed the bed." And immediately the mom, she came in, was yelling at all of us, like, who peed the bed, blah, blah, blah. And the culprit, who we all knew, was sitting there kind of basically, like, throwing himself out of there. Not my brother. It was another kid, we'll call him Dylan. He was just sitting there, like, raping his hands, doing, like, the I'm guilty face. And she was like, oh, it was you, huh, Miguel? And I was defending him, like, no, he just said he didn't do it. You can check him. He doesn't, like, you check him, whatever. And she looked at me and she sneered at me and was like, don't you walk into this. And I was like, don't you yell at my brother like that, like you're our actual parent. And that set her off, and she shoved me.
Damn.
She shoved me, and I hit the back of my head against the corner of, like, one of those wooden desk drawers, and my head busted open.
And this was in the other foster home after Gaki?
Yeah.
When you guys were placed together?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Miguel can vouch for this too, because we had detectives come in 3 weeks later taking pictures of it, swabbing. They were swabbing because she tried this time. I remember as soon as I started bleeding, she ran me straight to the bathroom, started dousing my head in the sink, trying to, like, with water, I guess, to stop the wound. And because that didn't help, she literally smothered my face in a towel and drove me to one of the hospitals right here off of Market Street. It was off of right here.
We drove you to the hospital.
And she basically like told him that I fell. Like she said that I fell really bad, and she was like, she the whole time that we were driving there, she was telling me to just keep my mouth shut and that she was gonna speak. So they had to do like an operation on my head because I guess I needed 8 or 9 stitches because it was actually a pretty big cut, and the whole time I do remember this, and I will pledge it to everything. I don't care what anybody will tell me, is their anesthesia failed halfway. For the doctor, so I felt the doctor's last 3 stitches.
Damn.
That sucked because I was screaming for mom for like hours, and then even then afterwards I was just sitting there like hiccuping and sobbing like a scared abused puppy. And then the doctor actually came over and he pulled me aside because he was talking to the lady, my foster mom, and he pulled me aside because he was like, "Can I talk to you?" And she's like, "Oh no, he doesn't need to be talked to." He's like, "No ma'am, I'm gonna speak to my patient."
Yeah.
And so he picked my hands up and I was just shaking like a puppy, scared, and he was like, "What happened, young man?" And long story short, I told him everything. Like, I just started crying. Like, it was so gentle, his voice, that I just opened up. I was like, "She hit me. She's been doing this to me. Like, my head, do you see this?" Like, and it opened up a whole police investigation.
Damn.
And it was me and 4 other kids who were then removed from her house. And then she was...
I remember there was a time when they're like, "Oh, your brothers are being moved." And then I think that's when they separated you guys again.
Yeah, that's when they separated us.
And I was like, "What do you mean they're being moved?" But I didn't get information because, again, I'm just another kid.
Exactly.
So,
that's when we went to the twin sisters. That's when we were moved to them.
Oh, okay.
That's how that connects. And then, because when I got to their house, they looked at me weird because all my head was buzzed and stuff because I had like a scar here, a scar there.
I remember your
my
head
scars,
buzzed.
and I had my scars. That's exactly why.
Oh.
Yeah. Because that whole incident.
I'm telling you, like it's we would spend time together, sometimes visits here and there.
But we didn't have enough time to really notice things like that. Like if me or Miguel was ever abused, we didn't have enough visitations for you to notice it. To be honest.
Exactly.
Because
like
they would either be healed or they would tell us to cover up. I'm not gonna lie.
Even that, like it was like, some visits here and there. It wasn't always visits, and sometimes it'd be like people would have to come and pick us up, from our foster homes, and then take us to another designation. And I remember that we would go visit like grandma at the McDonald's and things like that during our foster homes.
Like that,
and I remember like my second foster home, because I was only I think I was in 3, because that second one I don't really remember what it was, but it was before Gaki. And then after that we went to, I guess, my third foster home, which was my longest, and that was kind of my last, because I was already older. I remember that I was there for about 3 years, and I was one of the longest kids. And even there was a point where they wanted to adopt me too, but I kept repeating, like, "No, if you don't adopt me and my brothers, like, I don't want it." And they were like, too. "No, we would only adopt you." And I was like, "I can't."
That's how I was too. Like, I remember at one point they had put us up for adoption. This was the first time they put us up for adoption.
Oh, I think, and they asked me, and I was like, "No."
Yeah,
like
I kept saying no.
I think I was,
but they were telling me that they were about ready to adopt Miguel because Miguel was a baby.
Miguel was a baby, yeah.
And so they're like, "Oh, we already got the papers. We gotta get this in." And I was like, "No, like you can't take him. Like that's my brother. Like if he's getting adopted, we all 3 have to get adopted or something."
Yeah.
And I remember being the only one kind of fighting, and it got to the point where I got an interview with the adopted parents. Oh, and I made myself as horrible as possible, and I telling them, like, "If you take my brother, I'm gonna find you." Like,
oh my god.
No, I got to that point. Like, because I was afraid.
But it's true. Like we didn't want to be separated
and then be
permanently.
Yeah, like
that was permanently because we have experience
with that.
With our we have a cousin that got adopted when he was little, and
we understood what that meant. Like
it took us a while. It took us a while to find him, because find him, or not even find him, but just like kind of all of a sudden, it was like, "Oh, like remember Diego?" Like,
and
we found him, and we're like, "What?" Like through Instagram and things like that. But I remember our aunt would always be like, "Yeah, like he was adopted when he was little." And I remember when they told me too, because I had turned 12, and supposedly at 12 you're almost to the teens. So they kind of tell you like, "Oh, you can be kind of in charge of everything for you and your brothers."
Yep.
And they told me about Miguel getting adopted, and I was like, "No." I was like, "There's no way that you're gonna separate us permanently after all these years of just all that, separating us and not even putting us in a foster home, all 3 of us together." And I remember that I used to talk to my social worker about it, and I was like, "I want a house where they want all 3 of us." And she's like, that, you know, there's not going to be a way, like there's nobody that's going to accept 3 siblings. And I was like, well, at least keep them together. And then they put you together, but then they separated you guys. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, you guys told me you guys going to keep them together. Like, there's no way that they can survive, you know, separated.
No, because very, very young, and even then, like, I know me and my brother growing up had a little butting heads near our teenage years. But I knew growing up, like, my brother was everything to me. Like, he really is, and he still is today. Just so you know, if you hear this podcast, you are everything to me, you butthole. But, like, he really was, like, from whatever group home that I was in that I knew he was around, I always made sure he was good.
Yeah.
Even, like I said, when my second placement was Polinsky, and I found out that they had him in the nursery or the nursery section, I would purposely break out of my cottage almost every night to go try and see him, because I didn't have any sense of peace. Like, I couldn't see you, I didn't know where you were. So the only thing that I knew that was closest to me or was familiar to my surroundings was Miguel. So, like, to me, it was like trying to be as close as possible to him without, you know, like, I guess breaking the rules and stuff. And, like, I remember when we moved in with the twin sisters, and, you know, they were like, oh, he doesn't live that far, he's only 15 minutes away or whatever. He really was. But they would never let me go see him, and I could never walk down there by myself, even though I was allowed to walk 3 miles to my own elementary school. You know, totally normal, but I can't walk the 1.5 2 miles to go see my brother. And I remember one of the Easter holidays, because we spent 2 years with them, actually. They were one of my longest running, one of them, because it was only 3 families that I really ran long with. But they were my first family, and I remember she literally, like, she blackmailed me the entire week, like, oh, if you keep being bad, if you don't do your homework, if you don't do your chores, if you don't do all these things around the house, you're not going to get to see your brother on Easter. And it didn't matter, because on Easter Day, she didn't feel like going to her sister's party.
Yeah.
So I did everything, and I cried that day, the entire day, because I wanted to go see him. Like, I don't know, like, again, being separated from him, at least from an early age, I felt like the constant need to take care of him, because I know you took care of both of us, but at the end, too, since I was with him, I was in charge of him. And it scared me to death when I didn't have him in my field of vision, or if I knew he wasn't around an area that I could get to. Like, I know a mile is not that far, but still, to me, that was like across the country. That's what it felt like. Having him 3 houses away, 100 feet away, just felt like he was in another country and I couldn't get to him. And emotionally, that was demoralizing, because as his older brother, I didn't feel like his older brother. At some point, like, before we went to the San Diego Center for Children for the first time, it felt like I was just that older, like, stranger he knows. And I know he said, no, it's more like a father figure thing, but it really wasn't. Because with the wedge that was being driven between us, like, it felt like he didn't get to know me as much. And that's how come when we both entered San Diego Center for Children, I realized that our views were different. And it sucked, because it's taken us a while to kind of get back to where we are now. And I'm happy for it. I really am. I'm blessed to know that, like, me and him used to go at each other's throats with imaginary knives.
Yeah, I remember.
And now it's like, yeah, we have the knives behind our backs while we laugh. Like,
oh my God.
Either way, the whole point is our relationship is better.
Gotta be
but
so
I can say,
explicit.
But I can say now, like...
Yeah. Well, you grow into it, because you know, as kids, we're confused about what's happening in our lives, and then also confused about what's happening with our siblings, and then being separated. Because, for example, me and you would get along more than with Miguel, just because we kind of were together longer on our older ages. You know, again, we were like, you were 5 and I was 8 before we got taken into the system, and you understood more than him. He was a baby. And then when you guys grew up more, like a couple of years later, and you guys were in the, you know, the center, and I know Miguel was around like 6, you were about 9, 10, and you know, I was like around 14, and I remember that I had just turned 14, because I remember we had a birthday party at my house. And then a couple months later, you guys were taken away. from
Again.
grandma's. Yeah,
'Cause
okay.
we went to the center twice.
God.
But we were taking.
No, I know, but it's like
But it's
to
crazy,
not
like-
to not make it so long because we can, kind of continue it on another one. I just kind of want to wrap it up to by the time that we talk about grandma's and then the center again. But I just feel that my relationship with Miguel hasn't been as close as me and you, because when you were older, like I said, at the center we would go visit, and me and you could have these conversations about like games or like characters and things like that, and Miguel would want to kind of tag along, and we were just kind of like, oh, you don't understand, or we'd kind of push him aside,
Yeah.
which sucked. But again, as kids, it's just that's what we did. And so when I started my relationship with Miguel, it was more when he was about like middle school, almost high school, that I was going to visit you guys from grandma's, and I could feel that I was kind of getting closer to him. And again, I always felt close to you. Like I felt like I had to put more effort into Miguel.
Me too.
Yeah, like
ours was more natural. I think our relationship became more natural since we were, like, it's always like, I'm not saying that like Miguel came like as an unwanted thing, but because it was a big surprise, it was a miracle, and I'm very grateful. But I feel like because it's always been like just more natural between us in that, like, I don't know, like, it's like we vibe on the same level.
Yeah.
And for Miguel, like, because he was born in the system, his vibe's a little off. He's trying to find his way, He only really knows much about his personal situation and surroundings based on the information that the system and we have given him,
Yeah.
He doesn't really know much about anything. And I'm not saying that he's not a smart person, because he's very smart. But he is very, like, I feel like recently he has kind of closed himself off.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to figure out where he's at, and
that's what we all had to go through. I mean, he's just 19 now, and
yeah, exactly.
we're way older. And again, it was just the age. Like, he grew up in that, so he has the different views.
Exactly.
And I feel that little by little we can fix. Like, I speak of my own personal experience because you have a different relationship with Miguel than I do. You get along with him better than I do sometimes, because again, it's almost a 10-year difference, 10 years of him, and su cura no es mi cura a veces, and I'm just like, it's more of annoying than, oh yeah, haha, and with you, it's like, you can be annoying as well, but we still can vibe on different things. So just kind of going back to that, I feel that the relationship with Miguel is a lot different than with yours, or like mine and your relationship. And it's always going to be because we didn't grow up together, and you had more, even if it was for a couple of months of living together, in a foster, or living with the sisters, that you would still saw, you guys had more time together than with me. And even when we were at grandma's, like, it was still like me and you would vibe more and even fight more. And then Miguel was just kind of either with you, or like I would be like, no, Miguel, peace. But we're kind of getting to that point. So bringing this to a conclusion, I just kind of wanted to put some phone numbers out there, some crisis hotlines. If anybody ever needs help, you can text SHELTER, SHELTER, and your zip code, for example, SHELTER 90210, to the phone number 99000, from anywhere in the nation, and you will receive a response with a local safe shelter to go to, close by. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, it's 1-800-273-8255. The National Sexual Assault Telephone Hotline is 1-800-656-HOPE. That's 1-800-656-4673. And the National Child Abuse Helpline, 1-800-422-4453. And some legal resources that I kind of saw, that is called AdvoKids. And it's free legal helpline for asking the judge to make new decisions about your life, new decisions about your relationship with your brothers or sisters in foster care, or reporting a problem with your attorney or social worker. The helpline is 877-238-4543, and it is open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. So hopefully some of those will help anybody that, needs any sort of help. Remember that there's a lot of resources. I, Googled these, so if there's anything else that you guys need help with, it's really easy to Google, life crisis, help, need, anything, and, numbers will pop up. But I just wanted to name, these couples that kind of go with the stories that we, shared with you guys.
And we'll be sharing some more in the future, of course, as we bring more guests into the podcast.
Well, that's it for us today. Thanks everyone for listening. Special thanks to my brother Alex for being on the podcast and sharing some of his experiences. You'll definitely hear more from him in future episodes.
No, thank you for having me. I'm very grateful to be a part of this podcast, and I'm always willing to bring out some stories and bring out foster awareness. It's a very good thing to do out here.
Yeah, thanks so much again for giving us a little bit of your time in your busy world.
Oh yeah, my slice of life.
You can find Fostering Growth on social media. Our Instagram is fostering.growth.pod. Twitter is at foster_growth with 2 H's. And Facebook, you can search for Fostering Growth and add us as friends. And I also made a Facebook page with the same name, Fostering Growth. So feel free to go and like or follow.
We would love to hear any of the different ideas you all have about today's episode and anything else you would like to hear about. Do you have an idea for a topic, you need some advice, or would you like to share a story of your own? Please send an email to fostering.growth.pod@gmail.com. Again, it's fostering.growth.pod@gmail.com.
And just, reminder, we would always, keep anything anonymous. If anybody would like to share their story and would not like
definitely.
to, say their name, go ahead and write that. You don't even have to tell me your name or anything.
Confidentiality is something that we as foster kids understand. So
yeah.
That's our biggest thing here.
So, again, this is a safe space for, people who want to share stories and also help with that, foster awareness, because we're all a big foster family, and some, have had better experiences or maybe even worse experiences than us. But we do want to let you guys know that you guys are not alone. And, little by little.
Feel free to reach out. We're all family. Be real. Fosters, we're all family. It doesn't matter where you come from, what you've been through. If you've been in the foster system, you are family.
Yeah.
We're all a big family just trying to get out.
Yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and stay tuned for a lot more to come.
Bye.
Bye-bye.